Humanity has participated in ritual sacrifices for many millennia, nay, some might even say back to the origins of man itself, in order to appease gods so that we may prosper as a society. Aztecs did it for fertility and societal structure, Celtics for prophecy and divination, Japanese to protect buildings, Egyptians holding retainers to bring with them into the afterlife. Many sacrifices across our history, though, were to satisfy gods to prevent their wrath besieged with famine, war, drought, destruction, illness, natural disasters, and more. What if those sacrifices actually weren't just superstition? What if the practice of watching and enjoying teenagers getting slaughtered by various horrific entities stemmed from the oldest ritual of sacrifice that gods increasingly drew board from, all fronted by a secret organization fulfilling a centuries-old blood contract? Basically, the SCP organization, if an ancient demigod forced humanity to harbor every idea of terror lest we be judged. Monsters of countless horror, only released when token favors are acquired. But what if all the monsters broke loose? What if this ritual failed? What if you were among the unlucky few that was unknowingly inducted into this ancient ritual? What would happen beyond a cliffhanger ending? Today, we are discussing the Scooby-Doo vs. the World. We are the true insatiable gods. Is that a Left 4 Dead reference? A movie you thought would be a generic slasher turned into the best parody of every horror movie ever. Wow, such gaming. If a stoner can survive to the end, so can I. 1000 Ways to Die, Horror Edition, and a love note to horror becomes an apocalyptic scenario for me to milk. Cover movie itself. Today, we are telling you why you wouldn't survive Cabin in the Woods' monster apocalypse. Before the dawn of man, gigantic towering figures walked the earth known as Ancient Ones, inspired by or even possibly a variant of cryptids like Cthulhu and mythological presences most similarly like the Titans of Greek lore. Domineering over the domain of man for countless era, no force in existence was stronger or more fearsome than these deities. Considering the sheer size of their arm in comparison to the cabin at the end of the movie, it stands that their hands alone are at least 3 stories tall. They can also easily break through layers of the Earth's crust in one thrust with ease. Their full capabilities are still a mystery, however, due to unknown reasons, either by boredom, ritual, or necessity, they entered a state of dormancy and went to slumber deep within the Earth's core, with one or more of these gods lying under each developed country around the world, ready to attack if angered at any moment. This hibernation, however, did not quell their consciousness, and instead, they remained spectating the world of man so that they may flourish for one reason, and one reason only: entertainment. The Ancient Ones sought to use mankind as a way to appease their brutal cravings of violence. Since the dawn of man, did people have to routinely participate in sacrifices to keep these gods at bay and underground. Not offering human lives up to these gods would incur their wrath, and ultimately lead to the total extermination of all of humanity. Originally, these sacrificial offerings were as simple as tossing a virgin girl into a volcano or ceremonial pagan murders. It's possible many ritual sacrifices across many different cultures weren't for what we have chronicled in history books, but were originally displays for the Ancient Ones, so they remain within their hibernative state. Over many millennia, these gods drew weary of man's tired old penance and demanded more creative and diverse methods of atonement. As humanity developed and evolved into a more advanced society with vastly different cultures, the Ancient Ones had devised and revised rules pertaining to their ritual to keep them satiated. Whatever these guidelines were, they had to be carried out. As to what methods these people would be killed by and what exact procedure it would be done accordingly with is set in literal stone by the Ancient Ones as simply the ritual. The story of the Cabin in the Woods and the idea of these gods and their sacrifices are a very heavy-handed meta-commentary on horror genres surrounding different cultures, as well as how increasingly hard it is to entertain those that spectate these horrific trials, creating a parallel between these gods and the horror movie audience. While hilarious in its own right, the idea of having to suit a god's need for perfectly articulated violence or else humanity's destruction would be assured is a hell hell of a way to say why you wouldn't survive. What is this ritual though? What are the rules? What are the steps and methods to making sure these gods don't jack in the box out of the earth and stomp us all flat? Before discussing the ritual itself though, we must seek those that have to carry out the ritual. In order to ensure society's continued existence, all governments around the world sought to create and fund a secret underground conglomerate known as the Organization, with the sole purpose of upkeeping the annual rite without a hitch. Dating back to basically when humanity gained sentience, they have maintained this status quo with the gods, currently having technology beyond the most advanced possessed by military and societal groups. Every hierarchy and authority in the world will either be a part of this Illuminati SCP group or indirectly funding it in some way, shape, or form, and will see to the ritual's success one way or another. The organization also reveres the Ancient Ones as all-powerful entities that must not only be satisfied, but also worshipped. Now, they wouldn't be revered as gods if the only thing they have going for them is sheer size and telepathic communications with world leaders. These deities also have the power of physical manifestation, delving into the dreams, or more so nightmares, of all of mankind. The Ancient Ones are able to retrieve the most terrifying, bloodthirsty, ravenous, and psychotic humanoids, creatures, and monsters we can even imagine, and then bring them to life with all of their capabilities and bodily autonomy in tow. Anything conceived by man since our first nightmare will be alive and ready to kill. Anything from killer clowns to mermen, zombies, imps, giant snakes, poltergeists, dragons, krakens, Walmart pinhead, Left 4 Dead infected, trolls, unicorns, mummies, robots, blobs, and many, many more. Put into categories including supernatural entities, psychopaths, folkloric creatures, or common phobias, with minor variations listed as undead humans, demons, extraterrestrials, and giant animals, lending to the idea of the full calamitous capabilities of these immortal leviathans, being able to create any nightmare intentionally or unintentionally thought of by man and let it loose to wreak havoc. It's either that or they created these monsters and they appear in the nightmares and thoughts of man since the beginning of time. But it is not like these abominations are out roaming the world on their own. No, they are born via the Ancient One's will, and then given to the organization for containment purposes. Sealed away in hardened glass boxes, each and every monster will be tucked away until called upon when a ritual demands their presence and services. The main rules state that these rituals will be carried out differently amongst each and every country dependent on their cultural customs. Only one ritual out of every single one needs to succeed on Earth to satiate the Ancient Ones each year. Those that are sacrificed must be young or at least youthful in mind, body, and/or spirit. The sacrificial people must be put through trials involved with their country style of ritualistic horrific sacrifice. The most notable and covered within the movie is that of the American ritual, where 5 distinct people must be chosen and killed off in a methodical way. Described as the athlete, whore, scholar, fool, and virgin, these 5 roles can be interchanged or forcefully altered to meet this goal. Following the beat and rhythms of a generic horror movie, these 5 roles must avoid warnings of doom from the beginning of their journey, go to a place of violent intent, and willingly choose any random token associated with the previously discussed monsters. Each series of deaths always starts with the whore, due to the whore being the symbolization of the most tainted of man. The fool and athlete can die interchangeably, while the scholar can die once the virgin has been tempted by lust. Optionally, the virgin may live, depending on circumstances, so long as she has suffered mentally and/or physically. Which monster goes and kills all of them off completely depends on what the group interacts with, and over the course of the night or the following days, the group will be systematically slaughtered as blood is fed into stone tablets deep underground, embodying each of these roles to satiate the gods. Examples include the diary for the zombie Buckner family, a music box for a sugar plum fairy, the conch shell for a merman, cologne for a Sasquatch, an amulet for a werewolf, puzzle sphere for Walmart pinhead, Fornicus, and you get the idea. But once one item has been tampered or interacted with, then the monster will be released and allowed to hunt its prey however it sees fit, so long as it fits within the guidelines of the ritual. Now, as to not discuss the full lore of the Cabin in the Woods too much more, nor to just slap a recap at you like most other channels do, we are going to discuss why you wouldn't survive. That's the reason why you're here after all, and we're going to be covering 3 possible scenarios that could happen stemming from the events of either A, the organization's influence in succeeding the ritual with you as a sacrifice, B, the organization succeeding in the ritual but failing to contain the monsters, or C, the ritual failing, the organization crumbling, and the Ancient Ones awakening with the monsters released. All of which I can say with certainty that you ain't making it out alive, and the most probable scenario to occur with the context of the lore of Cabin in the Woods is scenario A. I do not believe for a second that the organization would fail in every branch of the world and then be sabotaged completely by one stoner in the woods. The events of Cabin in the Woods would most definitely not go as they did. One stoner being immune to gases and letting his paranoia stumble on the biggest conspiracy in human history simply just would not happen. The organization has been a global effort by the most powerful, elite, and organized of humanity for centuries, nigh millennia. The organization itself set up fail-safes like crazy to ensure the sacrifices would make dumb decisions of their own technical volition via mind-altering gases while being vastly unprepared and, unlike anything a normal person would do when trying to survive. Everything is set in place by this organization to make sure these young people will die via horrific methods, for you see, the rituals are overseen by not only the Ancient Ones, but a series of cameras and regulators around a chosen site. Everything will be contained and made sure of by the organization. If you are one of the 5 inducted into the ritual, many factors will be working against you the second you enter the designated area, not necessarily having to be a cabin in the woods. The perimeter of a few mile diameter of the vicinity will be completely walled off from the outside world via an invisible force field hard as diamond, impenetrable to all those trapped within, unable to escape until all conditions are met. If you don't view yourself as or act like one of the 5 stereotypes for the ritual, the organization will do everything in their power to make sure you do. Taking samples of your DNA through your hair, blood, and saliva, the organization's chemical department will analyze every aspect of you to alter your state of mind, tampering with chemicals you interact with like hair dye, drinks, soaps, and a lot more in order to work its way into your blood to reduce cognitive function, rational thinking, and impaired senses. Using concoctions of various different alcohols, spirits, wines, liquors, and numbing agents, will gases be pumped into the air to make everyone basically drunk without knowing and not having the negative side effects of alcohol consumption, even pumping drugs like Thorazine into the air to quell skeptical minds. That way, even the most paranoid, strong-willed, and survival-oriented folks will lower their guards and basically just make stupid decisions against those of murderous intent. Other factors of the surrounding environment will be manipulated where the temperature and lighting of specific spaces can be altered either to induce sexual activity or for survivors to go somewhere else due to discomfort. Pheromones will also be pumped into the air to make all those inside more prone for hump time. If you are one of those that thinks like someone who knows how to survive, the organization will have a mental and chemical countermeasure in place to literally change your mind.
We're gonna lock this place down and barricade every window and door. No matter what happens, we have to stay together. This isn't right, we should split up.
Once the role of the whore is set in stone when she gets the bone, her immediate death followed by the offering of blood to her solid avatar will set these chains of events in motion. If escape is attempted, all viable access points will be destroyed to discourage running away. Attempting any other method will just result in not even Thor could survive. All of this going against you while one of thousands of different unkillable threats are constantly pursuing you. The only chance of your survival would to be a virgin female that fights back hard enough to survive, or for you to have an impossibly high tolerance to every mind-altering substance there is out there and not falling victim to horniness. But even then, if the organization that's monitoring you this entire time sees you have caught on or are going somewhere to break the ritual outside their environmental and monster influence, they will simply send in armed troops to gun you down. The organization was so confident in its methods that it even had gambling prize pools over which monster would be summoned. They did not believe they would fail, and honestly, wouldn't at the point in time that we have set up everything, especially with multiple branches worldwide with the advanced technology that they have. Things would be much more concrete and would be prone to not fail, to the point that death will be assured for you, and will only be a matter of how and whom you will die to. Do you want a comprehensive list? Well, here's all the monsters.
I like this song.
Now, this ain't all of what's going to be after you, keep that in mind, just what has been documented, written down, or seen firsthand. This doesn't even scratch the surface on the total amount of contained specimens in the American branch of the organization. You still have all the other countries around the world with their own multitude of monsters in captivity ready to be summoned. Say the ritual was successful, but a security breach led to every monster within organization control to be let loose. Scenario B would be a catastrophic event in its own right. While the Ancient Ones would be appeased and continued their slumber, monsters of all walks of culture, nightmares, fiction, and more will spread across the planet. To put things into perspective, the Ancient Ones were and are still capable of creating living beings made of their conceptualized forms, merely from them either being thought of by themselves or via the nightmares and imaginings of every single person of mankind. So, everything listed before will just merely be a fraction of what will be unleashed upon the world. All horror franchises you can conceive, all apocalyptic scenarios I have covered, and anything that proves a threat to man, be it a singular person or our entire race, they can possibly manifest into something containable within a small glass cubicle and upon release, spread, as their anatomy, genealogy, virology, and capabilities would allow from their works of horrific lore. These monsters work under the mindset of only slaughtering anything that was not created by the Ancient Ones, i.e. they will actively avoid harming and interacting with each other, not being coordinated with each other, mind you, unless they are a part of a designated group. They will all inadvertently work together by killing people independently for the grand unifying goal of human extinction. Just about every monster available is able to swiftly kill even fully armored and armed personnel via dismemberment, disembowelment, being eaten alive, decapitation, infection, melting, stabbing, suffocation, burning, torturing, and any other imaginable ways of murdering you that you can think of. Some monsters will be mindless and feral, and always be uncoordinated like zombies and giant animals, but their sheer numbers and expanse over time will prove to be great pawns at thinning human numbers, overwhelming us over time. There will be more intelligent and calculative monsters like Fornicus, clowns, doctors, demons, and even Kevin. They'll systematically hunt down people and make them easier prey, infiltrating areas, shutting down power grids, some torturing information out of people to get the whereabouts of others. Giant beasts will also be seen to destroy safe havens, compounds, vehicles, and weapons. Things like dragons burning down countrysides, ogres and trolls tearing through structures and sniffing out people, just giant monsters in general, just roaming the land and destroying anything we can put up as a defense or offense. Attempting to reach any place in the world that you might consider safe will be reachable by at least one of these monsters. Are you trying to hide out at sea? A kraken might ensnare you and drown you, or maybe a merman will dive up and gouge your throat out. Are you going to find yourself in a maximum security vault with no way in or out? A howling spirit could easily phase through all surfaces to possess you and kill you. Are you thinking of ascending mountains? Well, flocks of killer birds or flying creatures like dragon bats and pterodactyls could easily reach you, or even yetis and wendigos thriving in these environments. Maybe an underground bunker. Nope. The angry molesting tree will burrow through to see that your ass has had a rooted end. Even apocalyptic level threats like Evil Dead's Deadites, the Blob, or even frickin' Cthulhu will be spreading their influence, turning people into Deadite infected, assimilating people's biomasses into the Blob, or Cthulhu ripping open portals to Lovecraftian realms to unleash those kind of monsters, with many of these threats retaining the properties that were imagined for their conception, with some monsters being completely impervious to all forms of damage. Dragons safe from anything non-magical, clowns being immune to gunfire. The monsters in general, upon breaking out, will beat heavy resistance from all of our governments and militaries of the world. But over time, every single threat would compound on top of each other against us to overwhelm man and expand indefinitely to usher in a new age for Earth. But wait, there's more! We have Scenario C. Yep, there's even worse than what was just conscribed. Is that a word? Conscribed? Described. The most conceivably obvious way for you not to survive is the ancient ones themselves awakening and laying waste to the surface world. They are indestructible and mountain-sized humanoid gods that will be tearing through the expanse of our planet like it was just a sandbox. Nothing we throw at them will prove to have any effect whatsoever. Our most destructive weapons, such as nuclear devices, will merely be shrugged off, as assumedly anything created by man bears no magical or deity-like properties to harm them. Simply giants stomping the ground and causing an Attack on Titan level rumbling across the planet, raising the land, demolishing major cities, eradicating all monuments of man. And while all this is going on, the monsters that plagued Scenario B will be down below, flying above, in the sea, in the walls, everywhere we can be as humans. They will be going after us as we're just stragglers and survivors across the world. Giants above us, monsters below. It is going to be a complete nightmare. To summarize just how fucked you are, think of this. I briefly mentioned it before, but I have covered why you wouldn't survive scenarios for 6 years now. Now, go through and watch every single one of them. Now, combine all of those into one scenario, exploding from one spot on the planet and getting out. Except now they aren't attacking each other and only have humanity on the mind to wipe out, all being reined in by literal gods, while the gods themselves attack from overhead. All those why you wouldn't survive scenarios I have covered, plus the list you've seen on screen, plus mountain-sized giants that can't be hurt whatsoever, that will all just be a small fraction of what will occur. Anything that is monstrous, demonic, or horrific that we have thought of or conceived since the beginning of man will be materialized. I can safely say Cabin in the Woods is the literal most busted why you wouldn't survive scenario, as it can literally turn into every why you wouldn't survive scenario that I cover up until now and into the future at once. All because some sexy young people didn't get sacrificed. All because individuals behind the screen watching the ritual's events were angry at their viewing experience because it didn't play out exactly as they wanted. So, what better way to make a change with it than to cancel mankind? Well, thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I couldn't really cover all the monsters that were included in this because it's everything conceivable by man. It's just a love note to horror in general, and it's got Left 4 Dead references. Thanks like always to Chago, aka Quick Flicks, for piecing together the complex bullshit that is my words into videos for your viewing pleasure, and thank you to you for watching. And a big ol' special thanks to my donators who pitch in either by being a patron on my Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. And you could be featured on this list right here.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Anyways, until next time, I'm Zach S, aka Wild Such Gaming. Stay happy, stay healthy, follow the rituals.